guys, my name is Megan, and today I've got a whole bunch of book recommendations for you if you really loved the Tarot Sequence series. Alright, so today we're talking all about some of the books I think would be really great to read after you've read the Tarot Sequence series. And these have kind of a similar vibes to the Tarot Sequence. I do have a video on like 5 reasons why you should read this series that I will leave linked up in the corner if you guys are interested. This is following Rune St. John, who is the last descendant of the Sun Court, and this is a very urban fantasy series, and we're following Rune and his companion and bodyguard Brand as they are trying to rebuild their court, but also taking on mercenary jobs and also trying to figure out what happened to their court and how it got destroyed, and diving into all of the mysteries that are surrounding the things that led up to the fall of the Sun Court. And the magic system is based off of tarot cards, and like all of the major arcana have their own courts, and it's set in a new Atlantis, and just there's so much going on. There's found family aspect, there are accidental teenage adoptions. It's super queer book series. And it's one of the best urban fantasy series that I've read in a very long time. So, with that being said, let's dive into some of the book recommendations I have if you really liked that series or if you want something that's like a kind of a read-alike. So let's go ahead and just dive right in. Alright, so first up I have 3 Meant to Be. This is an urban fantasy series, and it's following Dorian, who is a teacher at a magical high school where he teaches young witches to harness their powers. And so Dorian is a psychic, and he can kind of see the future, and he has visions, and one of his visions is about one of his students who he sees getting murdered, and he spends the entire year that the student is in his class trying to prevent, or I guess it's a semester. He spends the entire semester trying to prevent this student's murder while also dealing with a bunch of grief over one of his partners who has passed away in a very brutal, like, demons murdered him kind of a way, while his other partner is trying to deal with his grief, but also like trying to get Dorian to let him back into his life. And it's very interesting, like the dynamics between the 2 love interests, and also having all of these students that are basically becoming his like adopted children, but you know, because those are like his kids because they're his students. It's a very fun, very dark too, urban fantasy, and it's one that I would highly recommend. Next up I have Black Blade Blues. Okay, so this is another urban fantasy. This one is following Sarah Buhall, who is working as a blacksmith in, I think it's somewhere up near Seattle on the Canadian border, and she is part of a group of friends that are like Ren Fair security, and they all do Ren Fairs and like LARPing, which is live action role playing, and a whole bunch of fun stuff. They do Society for Creative Anachronism. So basically they're a bunch of nerds that are hanging out playing like real life D&D, I guess. Anyway, we find out that there are real gods and there are real dragons and like supernatural threats that are actually real. And this group that has been doing these Renaissance fairs and has like actual fighting experience, like they do the tournament stuff, they all have like actual, some of them have actual magic, and some of them have real life sword fighting experience due to all of the Ren Fair stuff. This one is also super queer. This one is featuring a lesbian main couple and a butch lesbian at that. And yeah, if you love the interference of gods in the realms of mortals, if you love dragons, if you love sword fights and motorcycles and real life D&D in small towns, this is the way to go. This one is such a fun series. Next up, I'm going to recommend the White Trash Warlock series. This one is one that I would highly recommend. If you've read the Tarot Sequence and loved that, you'll probably really love this. This is following Adam Binder, who is gifted with the sight, so he can see the Fae and see into the Fae realms, and he has some magic, but also he had been in a mental institution for quite some time, and because of that he has some PTSD. And go into this with a grain of salt and check the trigger warnings to start diving into this because of all of that. Adam is following the trail of a very bad person who's murdering a bunch of supernatural creatures and is kind of on the warpath for Adam's family. So Adam reluctantly goes and finds his brother and his mother and teams up with them in a bid to prevent a magical catastrophe. This one is also super, super queer, and it's one that I would highly, highly recommend, especially if you like supernatural. This is one to go for. Next up, I have the Covenant graphic novel series. This is following an exorcist named Ezra who is having a little bit of a religious crisis. It's following him as he is trying to, you know, save humans from demon possessions. He kind of maybe falls in love with a human that is maybe more than human. He might be an actual demon. And really it's just a bunch of hot priests doing demon hunting and trying to save humanity, and there's a religious trauma in it, and one that I would highly recommend, especially if you like a little bit of religious horror and a little bit of religious trauma. This is definitely the one to go for. And then the last one I'm going to recommend for this video is going to be A Fairy of Bones and Gold. This is another urban fantasy. This is following Patrick Collins, who is a mage working for the magical equivalent of the FBI, and he is sent to New York to stop a series of ritualistic murders, which are happening because of a cult that is trying to take the power away from a god. And he inevitably finds a seer who tells him that he can't leave this werewolf behind. And he and the werewolf stick together through the whole thing, and they kind of become soulmates a little bit. And this is such a fun urban fantasy series, and it's so addicting. I finished the first 2 books almost immediately after starting them. They are so, so good. And if you like the magical mysteries and gods interfering and urban fantasy stuff, this is the one to go for. It's so, so good. Alright, so those are some of my recommendations for books to read if you really like the Tarot Sequence. Do you guys have any books that you would recommend if you've read the Tarot Sequence? Let me know down below. And if you like this video, don't forget the like button. If you haven't already but would like to, go and hit the subscribe button. And if you'd like to follow me on social media for more bookish stuff, check out the links down below. Alrighty, bye guys!